All right, all right, all right. What's up, everybody? This is Open Minded Means Everything. As you can see from the video title, we're going to be talking about cloning. Cloning has been one of the biggest topics over the last maybe decade or so. People are trying to figure out if this cloning thing is real. Now, a lot of this information I'm going to be sharing with you is going to be coming out of text. So these are not my words. I actually have James Treffill, co-author of the New Dictionary of Cultural Literacy. And the information is coming from A through Z Guide to the Laws and Principles Governing Our Universe. So, before we even get into this, a lot of us, maybe not a lot of us, but originally the cloning term came from botany, which is planting, where you wouldn't really need the seed to grow another plant, so to say. You could actually take, the fruit itself, put it in the ground, and it'll eventually grow a stem and produce a replica of the original cell. Now, besides that, we've been hearing a lot of this talk going on in our world that they're cloning human beings. Um, a lot of that is possible, but then it's questionable at the same time. Me, I feel with our technology and everything that um, we see that goes on the daily basis, anything is possible. So you can't really say that cloning doesn't exist. And so what I wanted to do was share this literature with you. And basically, it starts off in 1996. Okay? 1996, Dolly burst upon the world. Now, if you're wondering who Dolly is the image that I had earlier of this sheep. That's Dolly. Okay? And what we have here is Dolly was brought upon the world under the direction of Ian Wilmot. A sheep was born which was genetically identical to an adult sheep. In the normal course of affairs, an individual grows a single fertilized egg after receiving half of its genetic material from each parent. In cloning, the genetic material is taken from the cell of one living individual. The procedure works like this. The nucleus, which contains the DNA, is removed from a single fertilized cell, a zygote. A nucleus is then removed from the cell of an adult member of the species and implanted in the immaculated zygote. This egg is implanted in the uterus of a female member of the species and allowed to grow to term. What makes cloning unusual is what made Ian Wilmot and Dolly international sensations. It has to do with the way the DNA cell changes as an individual matures. At the start, all of the genes in the zygote are switched on. In other words, they can all work. As an individual ages, however, the cells start to specialize by switching off various genes so that their effect is no longer detectable. In the language of genetics, they can no longer be expressed. For example, every cell in your body contains a gene for manufacturing insulin within its DNA, but insulin is actually manufactured only in parts of the pancreas. In all cells in the body, in your skin, for example, or in the nerve cells in your brain. The gene for insulin is switched off. So, a lot of individuals wonder uh, why the DNA codes are turned off. So I think that kind of explains some of it right there. Obviously, the DNA that is implanted into the fertilized egg has various switches turned off. The exact sequence being determined by which part of the adult body and cell is taken from. By a process we do not understand very well, the fertilized egg is able to reset all switches on the DNA to the to turn the off switches back to on. Excuse me. So that normal development can take place. This was at heart of Wilmot's great discovery. Now every attempt at cloning is successful. With Dolly, 273 eggs went through the procedure of DNA replacement, and only one of them resulted in a live adult. Since Dolly, many other mammals have been cloned: cows, mice, pigs, to name a few. Now, what's very interesting about them saying cows, mice, and pigs, a lot of us eat beef, which is the cow, and many eat pork, which is the pig. So, this is where you have to ask yourself, um, is some of the meat for those meat eaters, are they eating clone meat? Are you actually eating the first generation of the animal, or are you eating a clone? With mice, there have been generations of cloned animals, clones, clones of clones, clones of clones of clones, and so on. The biggest issue in the debate on cloning is the potential application of aspects of this technology to human beings. You see that? You see that? Human beings. They couldn't just stop at cloning animals and plants. They had to go into a whole nother area, human beings. On one hand are those who feel that the moral dangers implicit in the new technology are so horrific that its application to human beings would be banned. On the other hand, the technique offers a chance for many infertile couples to produce biological related children, an outcome that many would regard as a moral good. As the debate continues, there is one point about clones that has been made. Technically speaking, a clone such as Dolly has nothing more than an individual whose DNA is identical to that of another individual's. We have a great deal of experience in dealing with individuals with identical DNA. We call them twins. Now, anyone who has a twin should realize that that word twin was substitute for clone. A clone is simply a twin born years or decades later, what has been called a synchronous twin. Just as we would never dream of expecting one twin to give up its heart for implantation into another. The prospect of clones being raised for the harvesting of organs is a nightmare that will never come true. It has been my experience that if you substitute the word twin for clone, much of the high-pitched debate on human cloning fades away. For what it's worth, my own sense is that by around the year 2010, now that's 8 years ago, cloning will be regarded as no more morally reprehensible than in vitro fertilization or other modern fertility techniques. Because the cloning procedure is quite simple and uses standard techniques, I believe that cloned human beings will make their appearance soon if they have not already done so by the time you read this. Okay? So right there, we have cloning pretty much in a nutshell, and it's gonna basically have you think about this in so many aspects. Um, now with the technology that we have and everything that's going on, and I don't know if this is just to bring up a topic, but we have so-called celebrities that people claimed are clones. Um, they would be out of the media for so long, and when they return, they look different. Now, even in TV shows, I recall they would have things. They would have episodes. Excuse me, where they would do cloning. I remember one episode clearly that came from a show called Family Matters, where this guy Steve Urkel, he was in love with this girl Laura, and so Steve realized that he wasn't cool enough to get with Laura. So him being the nerd that he is, he came out with this idea that he would be able to make a clone of himself. Now this show was in the 90s, okay? And we just read that by 2010, cloning will be regarded as more morally reprehensible, okay? So, I mean, who came up with that idea even in the 90s that you would be able to clone a human being? So, in any event, Steve Urkel, he ended up making this clone, and the clone was a cooler version of himself. And so, the cooler version of himself was able to date the girl that he was in love with, but the only problem is the girl was in love with the clone and not Steve himself. So then this became a problem. Anyhow, just want to share this information. If anybody want to speak more about it, please leave some comments in the comment section. Hit the like button. Thank you for your time. Open-minded means everything.